So happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, James is going to present James Dinsmoor. I'll let him do more to introduce himself. I wouldn't be where I am without James. So pretty excited to see what he's got here in Premiere Pro. So James, I'm going to let you take over. I will monitor chat if anybody needs anything. And floor is yours, bud.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Tom. And I certainly wouldn't be where I am without you either, my friend. So welcome, everybody. And this is going to be a really quick overview. I normally take between 5 and 6 weeks to teach all this, because I teach white balance and color theory and lighting, along with color correction and color grading, because it all kind of fits together. And I'll try to explain how that works in the next hour and the time we're together here. So as Tom said, I'm James Dinsmoor. Right now I'm teaching at the Elite Scholars Academy, which is in Jonesboro, Georgia. I've been teaching 28 years, 27 years, a long time. And used to teach with Tom over at RCA, and moved back to Clayton County, which is where I've been the last 3 years. So today we're going to, I've got a folder. If you got the email from Tom, I sent a link to a Dropbox folder, which contains everything that we're going to go over today. And I'll open the folder and kind of go over those things. We'll be talking a little bit about lighting, about white balance and color theory, and then color correction and color grading, which I'm sure is why you're here. And we'll look at how to grade in Premiere. And then I wanted to show you a couple of other pieces of software that's also really good for grading and color correction. And then we'll do any Q&A if we have that in the hour that we have going on. Okay, so let's look at, first of all, the folder that was sent out with the email, which I think is here. Okay, so this is the folder that you have access to. Again, it's in the Dropbox, and everything, well, maybe not everything, but 80% of the stuff that I use to teach this is here in this folder. I have all of the assessments that I use, the quizzes and the tests are here, and I have screenshots that I use to add to the assessments. So like for this one here, you see like these pictures and stuff that are there. All that's there inside. Close this current tab. Close that tab. Is inside the assessments folder. And then I've got some different types of color schemes, color theory, that we'll talk about in a second. I've got several screenshots that show examples of those particular color schemes that are there. I have a couple of screenshots from a demonstration I saw on color correction, as well as some questions that you could ask, another type of assessment there. And then I have this really cool, the kids really enjoyed doing this, but I have 20 different screenshots from films like Django Unchained. And what they had to do, I gave them the actual pictures, and then I gave them several different color schemes. And what they had to do is match the film to the color scheme. So it's getting them an idea. We're talking about, when we talk about color, we're talking about evoking emotion. And why? Because as we all know, in film, there's nothing done on a film unintentionally. Everything is done for a reason. So the color palette that's in the scene is there for a reason. So I got them to identify or start identifying the different color palettes for each film. So these are all matchable. You could put them on. I just did it in a Socrative format. So there's the 20 film clips or pictures, and then the matching color schemes from each one of these. So, and they're not numbered because I was confusing to some kids. So like 1 is A and 2 is B and 3 is C and so forth and so forth and so on. Okay, I've got some stock footage that you can take, and it is you're welcome to use it. It's from EduStock, and it is shot in regular. I think it's is it log 729 or whatever they use for film. It's their standard grade. It's really flat image, and you can take this and actually import that or bring it into Premiere or Resolve or whatever you're using, and work in color correction there. Now, I think there may be some profanity used in some of these clips, so just look over it. You know, don't blindly put in there and let the kids just go at it, because I don't know how your principles and stuff are, but mine wouldn't like that. So there's also some stuff as a script for the whole thing, so you can do editing with this as well as color correction, but that's in there. Instructional videos, these are all self-contained. These are videos that I found on YouTube and brought them into Premiere and made them so they were self-contained, because my kids didn't have access to YouTube at school. So what I had to do was to capture the films or capture the videos, and then was able to put them out on the network, so they were able to see it in the Google Classroom. So those are all there. And then I have a couple of PowerPoints that I'm going to go over, as well as there's several other things here. Let me show you this. This is 2 playlists that I've created in YouTube. So like this is white balance. So there are several videos there that are have to do with white balance. And then the other one is color correction, color grading. And I have several videos there. So there's lots of different resources that are in this folder that you're certainly welcome to use, and I hope you get some use out of it. So I wanted to show you the 2 PowerPoints that are there, and talk a little bit about, let me bring up the white balance one first, this one. Okay, so I'm not going to play through and talk about each one of these. You guys can kind of go through and look at them, but let me explain what my process is as far as what color correction is and color grading and everything.
Hey James, can you change your presenting window if are you opening the PowerPoints?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, now I'm just showing the actual PowerPoint. If I go here, does that show? Is that it?
I'm sorry, James, someone walked in. What was that?
Can you see, is that it better? Can you see the PowerPoint now better?
I just see the folder.
Okay, let me try this. Window, PowerPoint, share. Now?
Yep, there we go.
Cool. Okay. So in teaching color, you have to teach them, teaching color grading, they have to know what color is. They have to know the color wheel. They have to know the basic 12 colors that are on the color wheel. because when they look at the scopes, when they look at any of the color grading programs, they look at the scopes, they'll have to identify the scope, what's on the color wheel. So if they don't know what the color wheel is, or what the different color schemes, the analogous or the complementary color schemes, then they won't understand how to work with it in the color grading program. So that's why I go with defining what colors are, and we talk about what white balance is. Again, I'm not going to go through this in detail. You can look at it at whenever you get a chance, but you can see the basic color wheel that's there, and they need to understand what that is, what saturation and hue is, and then luminance. And saturation, a lot of them don't understand, especially when we do like a mono color theory. The saturation is just various levels of a particular color. So like I could have 18 different shades of one color, and it's not different colors that they're seeing, it's different shades of a particular color. So this, when you're talking about saturation, lightness, that kind of talks about that. What value is, again, is how light or how dark that particular color is. I put on here some different color schemes. These in photography, I didn't mention, I'm a photographer and do a lot of stuff in Photoshop, but these are like graphic colors, what we would use in graphic design. But you can use the exact same things in film. So I've given them like this color value guide and let them color grade a particular film clip according to whatever scheme they see here. So they can change the different parts of the scene, parts of the clip to whatever matches these particular color schemes. And again, psychology, why we do color, you know, I get it a little bit into what a particular color represents, and what does it mean in film, why do they use particular colors in film, whether it's to be happy, or whether it's to be sad, or whether it's to be action, or you know, fast movement. All that stuff is there. Those are the four concepts. We go over those in great detail as far as different color schemes that are there. And then I've got, again, these colors, each one, I've got different types of color schemes and examples from each movie. Orange and blue is, you know, the quintessential color scheme that all films seem to want to use. So there's all those. But anyway, this is, again, color correction and white balancing and what color is. And I think it's important to understand those things before you get into color grading, because it wouldn't make sense, in my humble opinion. Okay, so I'm going to do this one real quick. Show window. Okay. So this one is the color grading versus color correction, because they're two separate things. Can everybody see that? Is that good, Tom? Can you see it okay?
Yes. Sorry, I had to find the mute button.
Cool. All right. So the process is obviously that you want to, when you're going out to shoot the footage, and you shoot it in as flat a log as you can, as a flat a scheme as you can, so that all the colors are desaturated. So there's nothing too bright or too dark or too saturated or too desaturated. And then you want to correct the footage first. You want to correct so that the skin tones are what they should be, and then white balance so that all the other colors besides skin tone are where they need to be. And once that's done, then you can go into color grading. So color correction is done first, and it's done in a couple of different passes, and then you would get into color grading. And so I've got just a couple of things here explaining, again, what color correction is, what color grading is. Again, two different things. And then I have embedded in the PowerPoints, I have a couple of videos, and I'm not going to play all of it, but I'll just play a little bit of it so you can see it.
Some movies choose an affinity of hue, utilizing a monochromatic color scheme. Those are just fancy ways of saying that a movie is mostly one color, or neighboring colors on a color wheel, also known as analogous colors. The Matrix is a classic example of a movie that mostly uses one color. That color? Green. Why? Well, the movie takes place inside of a digital matrix, and we associate green with code. Plus, the green in the Matrix has a certain sickly quality to it.
Okay. So again, this is built in or embedded into the PowerPoint, so they would see it.
First up, hue.
And some people call value brightness. I've noticed, so I put brightness down here, but either brightness or value is the same thing. Hue is the actual color, saturation is how much of that color is there, and then brightness or value is whether it's light or dark there. So this is a really good video talking specifically how to color grade in Premiere. So I'll show you a little bit of that.
My name is Denver Riddle. I'm a colorist and filmmaker. And if you're wondering, how can I make the look of my films stand out through color grading in Premiere Pro CC and make my films look big budget? Well, I'm going to reveal that here in this beginner crash course using the Lumetri color tools found in Adobe. We're going to create this amazing look. You can download the look as a LUT or lookup table and easily apply this to your own footage.
Okay, so again, this is a step-by-step basic walkthrough of how to do color correction inside Premiere. And this was mandatory viewing for all the kids. They did this at home before they came into class. Okay, a little bit more about white balance. Scopes. If you are not teaching how to use scopes, you really should. There are three main scopes that we use. We do color correcting. And the next slide, I've got a really good video on that B&H did on what scopes are. So that's what this is.
Hey gang, Chase here, and today we're going to be talking about scopes, very essential tools for production and post-production. They allow us to properly evaluate the luminance or brightness of an image and the chrominance or color of that image. We'll be looking at a variety of scopes and be showing you how to read them. Let's get started. For production, there are several scopes that will help you expose your image with confidence. Now I know what some of you are probably thinking right now, why can't I just use the monitor to expose my image properly? And the answer is because your eyes and your brain can be fooled. External elements such as ambient color temperature or the brightness of the room that you're in can affect the way you see the image on the monitor. Not to mention, the monitor you're looking at may not even be calibrated properly. Using scopes is the only way to know for sure what you're recording. The histogram is essentially a bar graph that displays luminance, the brightness levels of the image.
Okay, so again, they watch this on scopes. And then I take them actually into the program, and I'll open Premiere in just a second. We'll show you where all this stuff is. But explaining what curves are and how to use curves. if you haven't used Resolve, Resolve uses points on curves much more than they use like knobs, whereas Lumetri is more of Resolve is more node based, and Lumetri, our Premiere, is more point and click kind of thing. But both of them have curves. Color matching is real important because you film in different locations. You have different lighting things that are going on, whether it's indoor or outdoor light. The color temperature is going to be different. White balance is different. The shutter or aperture speeds, the shutter speed or the aperture may be different. You want to make sure that all of your footage looks the same. So as part of the color correcting, the color match process allows you to go in and use a reference image. Once you've dialed in an image, you can use that image to color correct pretty much everything else that's in your timeline. And that's part of color correction. It's part of the first pass you would do in color correction. Okay, so here's a video again on how to color match. This is inside Premiere. So I'll let this show you a little bit about this here.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Odisho, and in this video I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite new features in Adobe Premiere Pro in the new 12.1 update. So if you didn't know, Adobe Creative Cloud just released an update for a few of its apps with some new features. So working on our default timeline in an example project, we can see a couple new buttons that have been added in the Lumetri color and the program and reference windows. This button right here is the comparison view button that's been added, and it allows you to compare your current frame with a reference frame and also use some of the new tools in the Lumetri color panel like color match to give you a lot more flexibility and options. So let's say I'm working with two clips that are a bit different in camera quality, and you want to easily match those different tones that you have in your images. With these new tools, we can line up our view in side-by-side, vertical split, or horizontal split views, and also adjust where we are in the reference panel. So let's say I want it to have this cool tone that's seen on the left in the right. If I go to the Lumetri color panel, highlight the clip that I want to edit, so this autumn day, and choose apply match right here, and I press that, it'll automatically try to apply the same colors that it sees in the reference window that we've selected. So
you will have to fine tune it, obviously. Some of the time, like in this particular instance, the clip on the left hand side has been color graded, unless that's a window, unless the blue light that's coming in is some kind of sunlight coming in from the window. But you have to kind of fine tune it. It won't do it automatically, so you have to teach the kids, you know, this is a good baseline starting point, but you will have to kind of dial it in because not everything works perfectly 100% of the time. But anyway, that's how to color match. Three-way color corrector is just the three color wheels. I'll show you what those are when we get to Premiere. And then qualifiers, if you're doing like discordant colors and you want to make a particular color stand out on somebody, like somebody's wearing red, or you want to make stand out yellow, or whatever you're trying to do, then qualifiers are how you would use to do that. Okay, again, both of these PowerPoints are on the folder that you guys have access to. Okay, so let me go back here. Let's open Premiere, and I'll show you a little bit about where Lumetri is and kind of how to use that. So I'm going to open up. Let me share my screen here. Hopefully it's going on. Window, Premiere. Okay. All right, can everybody see that? Everybody see this is my Premiere interface? desktop?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Let me go back to my window and just go to like basic workspace.
James, I had a question in the chat about what level you teach this and what class you teach it.
I teach this varying degrees of this to all my classes. The more advanced they are, the more creative they can get. But the base level, just the basics of this stuff, the basics of what the color wheel is, white balance is, why we white balance, and how to read a scope, how to use a scope. Those are all things I cover on pretty much all my classes. Okay. So this is the Premiere interface, which you guys have all seen, right? This is the basic editing workflow. I've got one of those clips from that folder in here now, and you can kind of see it's just a very basic static, not static's not a good example, but its color is very flat. And that's what you want as a baseline when you start color correcting and then color grading. But if you look at inside, and I don't know what version of Premiere you guys are running. I have the Creative Cloud, so I'm updated. It just updated, as a matter of fact, like yesterday. So I'm at 14.0. Does that say Magician? Is that what that said? There. So I don't know what version of Premiere you're running. Hopefully it will look the same as what this is here. But at the very top, there's the workspaces. And in kind of the middle, it says color. If you bring up color, this is the basic color editing workspace. And you'll see here that we have a vector scope. And that's the color wheel. If you see that these are the colors, or they're red and magenta and blue, cyan, green, and yellow. And this information right here is the color, or the chroma that's inside this picture. Okay, I like to show, or I like to see my histogram for both luminance and for color, for RGB. And to get to that, right inside where the scope is, and the scope is where your project window would be, right here. But if you go down to the little wrench here and click on that, you can go to presets, and I changed mine to vector scope, and then parade RGB and waveform YC. Okay, now this brings up again the color wheel, vector scope, and then it has two histograms, one for color RGB, and then this one I changed this. If you go back into settings, this histogram here, if you go back into settings and do waveform type and go Luma, now I can see the brightness. Now I can see in my image where the bright and dark levels are that are here. So now I can see everything. I can see if I have too much red in it. I'm looking at the color wheel. I'm looking, this is where I'm going to see my color scheme. I can see if there's too much blue or too much green according to the histogram. Again, if you look here, that's pretty much right on. I mean, that's pretty much dead on as far as how it was shot. Again, this was shot, and I'm pretty sure it was shot at probably 4K and then down resed. But that's exactly how you'd want it to look like. And here in the Luma value in the histogram, you know that 100 is blown out. That's over. I mean, the brightness is too bright. And then down here is 0. That's the black level. And if it's down below there, then you're not seeing the image. And you should try to get everything in between these two in between 100 and 0. So basic color correction, if you go over here to the right hand side, again, if you click on basic correction, now you can see white balance. So the first thing you'd want to do is white balance the scene. Hopefully that if you teach your kids to start using something that's white and get a shot of that before they start shooting any action, whether that's a white piece of cardboard, or you could buy one of these color correction cards that have white and have all the other colors on it, and just get a shot of that in the lighting situation that you're shooting in, so that you have a reference to go white balance with. Well, since I don't have that here, I'm just going to go on, see this. I'm going to assume that I think this is an ambulance person. I'm going to assume that that's a white t-shirt that he's wearing. So I would go over here to under my white balance where it says white balance selector. I would click on that eyedropper, and I'm going to tell Lemitri I want that to be white. See, if you see that the actual scopes, it did not change much. Okay, it changed just a touch, but now I know that is white. So I have color corrected for white balance on here. Okay, and then after I've done that, I can change the highlights, is the brightness. If you notice, if you look over at the scope on the bottom hand side here, the histogram that's doing brightness, notice when I raise the highlights, see how the image starts moving toward the 100, right? And then if I do shadows, let me double click and make that back to 0. If I do shadows, you see I'm bringing the image down toward the 100, right? I'm not even looking at the picture. I could have a piece of cardboard over the actual video image. All I'm doing is looking at the scopes right now. Okay. So again, I'm going to leave this just at 0 for the time being. Now, as far as color temperature is concerned, let me bring up, let me go back to the vector scope. Let me just show that. I want to go just to vector scope here. Okay, this line, make the window a little bit bigger. Okay, this line right here between yellow and red is called the facial or the skin tone line. Okay, so I could change my tone and tint to try to match up skin colors or skin tones. If I didn't have something white in my image, I could try to line up so that my skin tones will go right along this line right here. So this line is called the skin tone line. So that's another way that you can do color correction if you don't have a white card. It's certainly a lot easier to do if you have something white in the scene, or you've, again, get your kids into the habit of filming something that's white before shooting any action in the lighting situation and have the camera settings the way that you're going to shoot with. So go back to this and my waveform to Luma. Okay. All right. So, and then these are just basic controls, right? Down here where the whites and blacks are, if you see that, again, I'm raising the whites, and look at the histogram, you'll see that I'm peaking, right? See how it flatlines right at 100? Anything that goes above that line is not broadcast safe. Okay, so if I tell the kids, you want to try to get around 90 90 to 93, 94 is fine. You don't ever want to get it into the 97 up to 100 range, because then you don't have any leeway. You don't have any headroom. So I try, again, to tell them when they're working, especially with the luminance, and to not go any higher than like 93, 94, and not get any lower than like 5, 3, between 3 and 5. Because again, you don't want to get to where if you were to change something, then you're cutting out your signal. See, right now I'm clipping out the signal down here in the dark, so those dark areas aren't visible. So just have to be careful with that. Okay, under, if I close this, under creative, this is where you're going to kind of get where you can be creative. Again, after you color correct, then you can do your grading, and that's where you get the looks in. And if you click on look right here, you can see that there's different film, different cameras will have a particular look to them. If I want to do like this gold western, right? And that when they say LUT, an LUT, LUT is a lookup table. And if you've gone online, you've probably seen dozens and dozens of people who are making presets or LUTs that they want to sell you. So if you want to get that film look, you don't have to adjust anything. You can just load the footage and choose your matrix green, and all of your footage, you can make it look like it's in the matrix. Of course, I would not let the kids do that, but not until they understand the process. Once they understand the process, if they want to go in and they want to take something as a baseline, right? Like this complementary light scheme here, this is the orange and blue. Take that as a look and use it as a baseline, and then go in and do some adjustments to it and figure out, well, what will happen if I take the blues down some, or if I turn the black level down some. You can see here in my RGB histogram that now the blues, if you look down here at the bottom of the, let me make the window a little bit bigger here. Okay, if you'll notice here down at the bottom of the RGB histogram, that's what this guy is right here, that the blues, see how they start way up here. So the black level of the reds and the green are further down than the blues right here. Okay, so this is a good starting point, but they can adjust from this. They could take this and now go into basic color correction and actually change that around, which I certainly encourage them to do. You can go to the actual color wheel itself. You can click on something. You can move the color wheel a particular way, and it's going to change your color. The shadows are the darker areas. Highlights are the brighter areas. Like if I want to change the color of this wall right here, that would be the highlights. Okay. Color match. This is kind of like that video was saying. Right here, you click on comparison view. I don't have another clip to compare it to, but you would click right here, click on that to see that. So this is all built into Premiere. It's not something you have to leave Premiere to get into to do. But I did, while I'm here inside Premiere, I do want to show you a different program that I use. Let me go back if I can take all this stuff off here. Take that and just delete that. Take this, delete that. Okay, so back to my base image, right? There's a program that's called Cinema Grade, and I have it. I've been using it, and it's so much easier to use than Lumetri is, and it's way easier to use than Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is pretty much the standard. That and Nuke are pretty much the standard programs that everyone that works on film use for color correction. So if you have a student that wants to get into color correcting, color grading, and they want to do it for film, they have to learn Resolve. That's all there is to it. They're going to have to learn how to use Resolve. The owner's manual for Resolve is over 3,000 pages. It's a really steep learning curve, and I'll open it in just a second. I'll show you. But this program, again, is called Cinema Grade. It's so much easier to use. But if you install it, you can get it online. I have a discount code, by the way. That's what was on that thing. You can get it for $50. But you go into effects when you download it. It resides into the effects in Premiere. So I'm going into down the bottom right corner into effects, and under video effects, you see here there is. If I put on my glasses, I could probably see. Yeah, there we go. There's a folder called Cinema Grade, right? And so again, this is the stock footage. This is undone. Nothing's done to it. So I could take Cinema Grade and I could add it to my clip just by dragging it straight onto it. And then over here in my effects control, you see that now there is a Cinema Grade and it says Open Controls. If you click on that button, it's going to open Cinema Grade right inside Premiere, right? So let me bring this window down so you can see it. Okay, but you can see, look at the interface is just so much cleaner. It's so much easier to see what I'm doing, right?
James, you need to switch the presentation window.
I'm sorry?
We're still in Premiere.
In Premiere? Oh, you don't see this right here? Oh, let me see. Let me see. Okay. Let me go back. Let me say stop sharing. And then let me go here to present now and see if it'll come up this way. If I do this. Now, can you see it?
Yep.
Yay. Okay. So again, this is Cinema Grade, and again, it's a plugin, and you just add it to your clip. It's right inside Premiere from the Effects tab, and look at the interface is just so much cleaner to use. If you look over here, I'm looking at the top. Up here, the first thing is my brightness, my luminance, right? So I can click on that button that says Exposure Adjustment, and then you see the little arrows that come up here. I can come down and click actually in my scene. I can drag it up or down and increase or decrease my exposure. If I want to look at the color, right, my color temperature, again, I can come down here and I can click and I can adjust the color right as I'm looking at the picture. And it's just, it's so much easier to use. Let's say I want to saturate out that red right there. I'm going to click on that and I want to make that red a lot redder. Just click on it, make it a lot redder. So I've been using it not too awfully long, but it's just so much easier to use. The only thing is it does cost. It's $50. I have a discount code. You can buy it for $50. And then if you wanted to get something for the school, you could certainly contact them and they'll work with you. But it's just so much easier to use, and it's a very powerful tool that you can do pretty much anything that you do in Premiere. You can do it here and be done with it and not have to worry about all those color wheels and points on curves and things like that. So just wanted to show you that. So
James, a question from the chat.
Yeah.
How much time does this plugin add to export times?
It does it in the background. So as soon as I hit apply, it starts rendering out, just like the other things that happen in Premiere. So you can continue working in something, and it does not take very long. Now, final render, when you render the whole thing out, it's probably going to be the same amount of time. I haven't honestly timed it, done the editing in with Lumetri, and done the same thing inside Cinema Grade, and compared the time. So I can't really give you a comparison to that, but it doesn't take long. I'll just say that it doesn't take very long to work with it. Resolve, on the other hand, Resolve is a different animal. Let me go ahead and open Resolve. Okay, so let me just close this and say discard changes. By the way, it updates automatically in Premiere. What you do in Cinema Grade, again, you can see it in real time. As soon as you hit apply, it applies it to the clip right inside Premiere, and it has all of the edits you did directly into it. So let me get Resolve open. Okay, let me go to my present screen. Okay, oops, that's not what I want. I'll go here. I want to go present, window, Resolve. Okay, so this is Resolve. And again, if you have a student that wants to get into actual film grading and film, work in films, they've got to learn to Resolve. They'll just have to. I had the manual. I'm telling you, the manual is 3,000 pages. And that may be because it's just covering a lot of things. Resolve not only does color correction, but you can do editing and special effects. And it's Blackmagic's kind of version of Premiere. So the color correction part, color grading part, isn't the entire part, the entire owner's manual. You can do editing inside Resolve. You can do special effects inside Resolve, but most everybody that I know just uses it to do color correction with, and they will either use Premiere or Final Cut. The new version of Final Cut's finally kind of back where it was. Or most people are going to use Avid. But again, this is Resolve. I don't use it a lot, just to kind of show the difference between the softwares. As you see here, it's node based. So if I added another clip here, it would add a node to it, and then you have to connect effects or things to it. It's a lot like Nuke, if any of you are familiar with Nuke. Then you'd have to join the nodes to something else. Again, the learning curve on it is super steep. I don't show this to anybody but my advanced kids. I don't even touch it with my basic kids or my intermediate kids. I don't mess with the Resolve until my advanced kids, they're juniors or seniors. Most of them are juniors because I don't have a lot of seniors there. But anyway, I really don't want to. It would take a long time to kind of get and explain how Resolve works. So this is Resolve here. Let's close this out and no, and save it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me go back to my PowerPoint or to my thing. What do I need to do? Cinema Grade. I'll show you. Oh, Satellite 3D. I have to show this to you guys. Let me just close Premiere so you don't see it here. There's a new program that I found to teach lighting, and it's awesome. And I wanted to show you this. It's called Set a Light 3D. Let me launch it and get it open. I should have had it open already. I'm sorry. But it's done. I think that the company is a German company. I'm not sure. But let me go back to my sharing screen. See if I'm here and go present window. There it is. Okay, so we all know, the different lighting patterns or how light works, but in here you could actually see, if you see on the right hand side, can everybody see the screen? What I'm looking at now, you see there's a model here in the right hand side, and then I've got like a set with a backdrop and a couple of lights and where the camera's sitting. Does everybody see that? Tom, you good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so I can change lights. Like right now, this is monolights, right? But I could change these. I could get rid of these guys and add like these area lights, right? Take out this light altogether. Okay, and see what it does. It updates automatically. I can show from the different angles. Like, let me take this light out. Okay, I can take this light and move it around in my stage. Let me get my camera out of the way. Here. Oh, I've got a mouse here and I'm using it. Okay, but you can see, right? I'm bringing the light around. Okay, so I can increase the intensity. I can change the color temperature. If I want it to look like right now it's at 6,000 K. If I wanted to move this up to like 3,000 K and show them the actual difference, right? If I want to show them 3-point lighting, right? So if I have a key light here, let's bring in this guy to be like a fill light. Bring you back out of the way. Over here. Okay, and then we bring in another one here, maybe a backlight back here like this. Okay, but I don't want to take up a lot of time, but you can see I can teach 3-point lighting. I can teach color temperature in here. I can teach the contrast. I can teach brightness, luminance in here. And all of the different things, these are actual measurements. I mean, it shows you to the actual inch where exactly the light is in the scene, where the camera is in the scene. And you can take the camera, like right now, I've got a 24-105. Let's say if I wanted to go to a wider angle lens, let's say maybe a 16, then you can see exactly what it looks like looking through the camera here. So I can teach, I can teach aperture. Here I can teach shutter speeds, all the different things here virtually in 3D, and it's so easy to use. And trying to figure out something to teach lighting, online instead of having an actual light in an actual studio where I could set the kids and put a kid, where we're shining the lights, the key light, fill light, and backlights, or I can do it all virtually right here. So the kids got a kick out of seeing this, and there are all kinds of models that you can use, like they're different type, and just drag them into the scene. Here you can change their clothes, their hair type, and everything. It's just a really cool program to use to teach all those things: lighting, color, temperature, aperture, and shutter. You can teach all those things with this program. Again, it's called Light. Close it here and not say. Oh, you can also, once you get everything set up, I was going to say, it will print out, and you can take the printout, and it will show you down here. You see this where everything is. It'll show you exactly in your studio where to set everything. I mean, to the inch. It'll show you how many feet you should have this particular light away from the camera and how many feet your key light should be. And all that will be printed out. And you can just take the printout into the studio and with a tape measure and set up exactly the scene as it looks like right here. I mean, I can take the camera and put the lens on it, the match the lens up. And it's a really powerful program. I don't know if any of you have seen it before, but I found it to be just way useful in teaching lighting. And this is the website here. Let me go back to my share. Let me do the share again. I'll show you the actual website. Chrome tab. Yeah, that's it there. Okay, so this is the website here. It's called, again, Satellite 3D. Elixir is the software. I did get a discount. If you let them know you're a teacher, you can get the program for like $94, $95. And, you know, I thought it was certainly worth it to have it, again, to try to teach the kids in a virtual way what lighting is. So it's there. And it's almost 11:30, so I'm going to see if anyone has any other. Let me stop sharing this here. Okay. All right. Now, cool. Okay. Now, I'm good. I'm done.
All right. Anybody have any questions for James? There were a couple in the comments, James. You already answered all this. They were asking the name and the cost. So, anybody else jump in if you have one?
Again, the color grading, CinemaGrade. If you go to CinemaGrade at cinemagrade.com, and the discount code is EDU50, and that'll get you $50 off, or it's half price. For CinemaGrade, Satellite 3D it lists for like 150, I think. And if you email them and tell them you're a teacher, they'll give you a code and give you $50 off. Resolve is free. You can go to blackmagic.com. You can download Resolve for free. It's not the studio version, but certainly it's a working version that you can get. You can download the manual for free too. And Lumetri comes with Premiere. It's into the new version of Premiere. Okay.
James, Tarina asked, did you get the studio version of the Satellite 3D?
Yes, it is the studio version.
And Winston, I see you have a question there.
Yeah, you know, the one question I had is, I ran up against is, what is the best way to teach color correction to a student that is challenged with color? They're colorblind. And so, but they really are interested in doing color correction, but it's a challenge for them to visually look at it and get it correct.
Right. That's where you have to look at your scopes, because again, I can color correct without seeing the picture at all. All I can do is just look at the scope. So I'm looking at the vector scope, which has the color wheel, and it has, you can see red and green and magenta. You can see those things that are there. So if I have the signal is going too far over toward the R, I know there's too much red in the picture, right? And I can also look at the RGB histogram, and if it's RGB, so the first set is R, it's red, and then green and blue. And if the red is too high, if it's going into where the 100 is, then I know I need to bring that down. So your object, or what you want to try to do, is to get those all three of them even, to they're all the same all the way across. So in that aspect, now I have not taught a student that's colorblind or wouldn't see it, but again, I make the kids do color correction without looking at the picture. Right, so they have to do it using the scopes, if that helps.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Anybody else? All right. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, guys. Miss seeing all you guys.
Like I said this morning, it's not quite the same starting without having to stand in the parking lot for a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again. Thank you again, James. Stopping the recording. And